Hello, I'm Dan, the ETC academic. Thank you for watching. In this video, I'm going to be featuring the Victorinox Fireman, which is my favorite of the 111mm models by Victorinox. Unfortunately, it is discontinued, but this was a precursor to the Victorinox Rescue tool, which is in fact still available. So if that sounds interesting to you, stick around and I'll talk to you more about it. Hello, and thank you for sticking with me. As I mentioned in the intro portion of the video, this is a 90s era Victorinox Fireman. This is based on their 111 millimeter frame, and I'm just going to walk you through the tool set really quickly and talk a little bit about what makes it unique and why I like it so much. The Fireman has this locking main blade, and this has the older slide lock mechanism that Victorinox was using during that era. But the real claim to fame of this tool here is that large serrated blade. The Fireman was a precursor to the Rescue tool, and they discontinued this model after the introduction of the Rescue tool. But these are still widely available on the secondary market, and that is the utility of that large standalone serrated blade, which gives this knife its appeal in general, and specifically its appeal to me. And the rest of the tool set consists of the 111mm Victorinox saw, and then it has the opening layer, it has the can opener there, and it has the cap lifter here. And on the back side it's got the awl and the corkscrew. And this is a knife that I had originally purchased just as a parts knife. I purchased it as a parts knife because I already have a Fireman, a Victorinox Fireman, that's in much better condition. And because they are discontinued, and because of the relative rarity of this blade here, because it only occurs on just a couple of models, I wanted to go ahead and pick this up as a parts knife. But once I received it, I think it actually might be worth refurbishing and attempting to fully restore it. The reason why I picked it up as a parts knife is because the knife does have some issues, as you might have noticed when I had the main blade open a moment ago. The main blade, somebody just sort of brutalized it. Well, let me rephrase that. Somebody loved this main blade and really used it a lot and didn't necessarily sharpen it properly. It looks like it was only ever sharpened in the field because it's got that slight little bow to it. And that's generally an indication of somebody using like a small handheld stone to sharpen it, because they weren't making it all the way back to that choil area, and which is the purpose of the choil, so that you can get it all the way up to the stone. But whenever you're holding a handheld stone, it just makes it a little bit more difficult to manipulate in that manner. So the blade is all very, very worn, very scuffed up, and it has some issues, and it's kind of marred up there on the back. I don't know if that was from carry or if somebody was abusing the knife in some capacity. But apart from those issues with the blade, the major issues with the knife in general are with the saw. And you might be able to tell, looking straight down on it, that the saw has a little bit of a bend to it. It's not noticeable so much right now because that serrated blade is holding it in place. But I don't know if I can, yeah, I probably already missed that. If I move the serrated blade, yeah, I already moved it out of the way, you can see how much that saw blade deflects. You can see the saw blade, how it is curving over to all the way over to the other side of the channel. And this is a double wide channel because that channel contains both the saw and the serrated blade. And you can see how much that is curved over. It's curved almost as much as the kind of curve you would see in a liner lock. Whenever you close the serrated blade, I'll try to hold this in place here so you can get an idea of how much that saw deflects whenever the blade comes down. You can see how once that serrated blade snapped in, it did so without coming in contact with it because it's sort of pushing the blade off to the side as it goes in. But it's just an indication of how bent that saw blade is. And that little sound that you heard there, let me bring it up close to the microphone. That sound you hear is the teeth of the blade rubbing up against the side of that serrated blade as you're opening it. So you can kind of tell whenever I have it open in that position, you can see the knife, the saw blade kind of skewing off again to that side. So what I'm going to be doing in this video is seeing if I can get that saw bent into shape and seeing if I can rehabilitate this main blade. That main blade, because it's lost so much material there, to get it back in action, I'm going to have to be removing a significant amount of material close to that choil area. So I'm going to see if I can increase the size of that choil, get this blade back, with a decent, straight edge all the way down. Remove that little cupping that has taken place through incorrect sharpening. Try to buff out some of those, sand out some of those scratches on there, and see if we can get this knife back in usable condition. So I'm going to pause the video here, and next time I see you, next time I talk to you rather, I'm going to be engaged in the rehabilitation process. Okay, attempting to get that blade restoration on camera it proved to be a little bit more cumbersome than I was anticipating. So I did get a little bit of a B-roll footage, so I'll share it on the screen as I'm talking about what I did. But basically, I just took my little hobbyist belt grinder, the world's smallest belt grinder, and I used that. I used the stone portion of it to sort of square off the choil there. Well, I mean toward the base of the choil where previous sharpening had been sort of cupped out, and then I used the edge of that also. It's still a new enough stone to where I was able to sort of get this at that 45-degree angle there, and to rework that choil, because I had to remove so much material from the base of the blade there, just to remove that curve that had been put in from the prior sharpening. And as you can see, I certainly don't have a professional edge here on that knife, but I wasn't attempting to completely finish it, because I'm just basically just seeing if it's going to be worth it to get this knife into sort of a not new condition, but at least usable condition. And I think we have proof of concept there. I think that blade looks pretty straight, and I still have a little bit of polishing to do, and I need to work on that tip a little bit more. But the blade certainly looks a lot better than it did. So I'm going to move on to the next stage of this. What I'm going to be doing now is attempting to straighten that saw. And just to remind you of how bent that saw blade is, hopefully that gives an indication. Try to get something. Well, that's probably not much of a straight edge, is it? This was the lid to my little sharpener I was using earlier, but you see that the blade has a lot of deflection there, and I'm going to be removing that with a vise. And what I do when I do this, I don't just put it inside the vise and then work the handle. You don't have a whole lot of control doing that. What I find useful is you can either use dowel rods or you can use a broken pencil. In this case, I'm using a broken hanger. I find that the plastic in the hanger doesn't compress the way that the wood in a pencil would do, or the wood in a dowel rod would do, because you're trying to bend this back into position. And I find that the plastic works a little bit better for me. And then I just tape it to the vise itself, and then I put it in the vise and I apply some tension. And what this does is it enables you to use just a little bit more control than you would have if you were attempting to do this freehand. And I'm just going to continue to work this blade back and forth a little bit at a time and try to get that bend out slowly. Try to do it all at once. Oh, my plastic just popped there. I'm going to have to pause this and get a new plastic rod. Okay, I replaced that broken portion of the hanger there. Sometimes with these hangers, they have little hollow spots in the middle, and if you apply too much pressure to the plastic, it can pop. And like I said, I'm just going to, it's curved this way, so I have the two rods on this side so that whenever I compress the vise, it will push it concave, or at least concave for this direction, and thus going the opposite direction of the bow. And once again, I'm just putting it in there, gradually tightening it, and then backing it off. I'm sort of eyeballing it here as I go along. And this is a bit tedious of a process, so I might go ahead and pause the video and then do the rest of this off camera and then come back whenever it's nearly finished. Okay, I've been off camera for about 5-6 minutes. This is a tedious process because you need to over tension it to reverse the curve, but you don't want to over tension it to the point that you get the opposite curve. And so I think I am at my last point of adjustment here. And I'm just holding it up and eyeballing it. I'm going to give one more little tweak here at the base. That looks pretty good. Has good snap. Let's see if it still makes that grinding sound. Yeah, it still makes that grinding sound. Don't notice it on the way in. Oh, there. Maybe I was just holding it at the wrong direction. Yeah. Yeah, it's no longer, I was just, the way I was doing it, I was pressing it toward the, toward that blade, but opening it in normal fashion, it does not appear to be rubbing. Yeah. So just eyeballing it down, it's still got a slight little deflection to it. I'm going to go ahead and do this one more time. Give it just a little nudge there in the right direction. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that will do it. So instead of this being a parts knife, I think this is going to end up being a user knife. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close. Okay, I'm interrupting because I spoke too quickly there in the initial video. I forgot that I was going to go back and talk a little bit about how to maintain the serrated edge on this knife, well, you know, on any knife more generally. And one of the reasons why people don't like serrated edges is because of the difficulty of sharpening. And without some specialized equipment, you know, such as a little, you know, sort of tapering diamond file like that, the ceramic rod that you can get from Victorinox, or even one of the little cheap little, you know, Smiths or any other brand of these little, the pull-through sharpeners, which I'm generally not in favor of. But the pull-through sharpeners oftentimes have this little diamond rod on the back of them, which is nice because you can pick these up for, you know, $3-4, something like that, and to give you some capability of sharpening the serrations. So you would just sort of match up the contour of the serration to the contour on the diamond file, and then use it that way. And, you know, regardless of what size diamond file you're using, you can do that. And you can also use the Victorinox, which is a very good product, by the way, because it is tapered. See if I can get that on camera. Because it is tapered, you can also use it to sort of, using your thumb, kind of bracing it so you can maintain a consistent angle through each of the serrations. Now, if you want a quick and dirty method, a quick and dirty method is this. You can take the Spyderco sharp maker and go in the opposite direction that you normally would. Normally, you would use this by going down, but for the serrations, all you're trying to do is knock off those little burrs. And so you're essentially using this as a strop. And speaking of a strop is another good way of maintaining the serrated blade. I apply just a little bit of white compound, and because the leather, it gives a little bit. It gives you the opportunity, well, it gives the the compound the opportunity to work its way into the serrations. Now you notice I was starting on the non-beveled side of that first. Again, that was just to make sure that I don't have any burrs on that side. And now I'm going to go in the direction of the bevel, and I'm going to draw it across there and try to resist the muscle memory, because you're so used to stropping, you kind of draw it across at an angle. With the serrations, you want to go in the direction of the serrations only, so you want to keep it straight. So I'm going to give this one pass there for about that half of the blade, and then reorient my hand, and then keep it straight going that way for the other half of the blade. And then just do that a couple of times. And one other way, quick and dirty way of maintaining a serrated blade, if you don't happen to have a strop, you can also use one of these green scrubber pads. And because it is padded, you can kind of do the same thing. Now I'm going to have to move my wrist off of camera here because I can't, because of the depth of the knife, I can't get the knife to rub against that. So I'm going to move my hand just slightly off camera here, and you'll just draw. Hear that sound? That's the sound of the green of the blade rubbing against that green scrubber pad. And that green scrubber pad actually does a remarkable job of sharpening. Again, not sharpening, this is more of a honing, but it will at least help you to maintain the blade if you're in a camping, if you're in a field expedient situation. You should always, make sure that you have an implement such as this to maintain, to actually do sharpening of the blade whenever you're at home. But if you just want to throw a scrubber pad, a green scrubber pad, into your pack, it is light, it compresses, and it effectively works the same as a strop with compound, but it saves you, the hassle of actually having to carry a strop and compound with you, because the strop is going to be subject to the elements in a way that the green scrubber pad isn't. So that's just a handy little tip there. If you find yourself in a field situation, or going to be planning on going into a field situation, and you don't want to the hassle of carrying something like this out in the field with you, you can just get one of these little scrubber pads, cut it in half, even cut it, cut it in quarters, and take a little bit with you so that you can at least do something to maintain the serrated edge in the field. And so now I think I'm finished, and so I'm going to segue back into the video, and I'm going to include a few B-roll shots in the closing seconds of the video so that you can see the final edge and what that looked like. So please continue watching, and I'll see you in a moment. I'm going to thank you for watching, and hope to see you in the next video.